Silicon Valley. And I invite our presenter for this team from Digital, that is Anil Saruram.
Thank you. All right, let's see if more people are coming in. It's high competition, there's many sessions going on. All right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Paramaribo, Pawaka. It's great to be here. It's great to be here at the second ICT Summit. Last year I was also here, and I talked about the next generation CIO. CIO is the Chief Information Officer. I talked about the changing role of the CIO because of all the trends, all the disruptive trends that are going on, like big data, cloud computing, Google Glass, wearable devices, all these kind of new trends. That's what I touched last year. What I want to talk about this year is looking at all the information technology, all these new trends. What does it mean for you? Or what does it mean for people that have innovative ideas? So we will look into the startup culture. The startup culture is the culture basically that stems out of Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley is, I will touch that a little bit later, but it's actually the mecca, they call it sometimes, of the nerds. Now nerds is not a bad word anymore, but basically that's where big companies like Google now, where they started small, like Facebook and so on. So I will touch all that. For those who were not here last year, a little bit about my background. My name is Anil Saruram. I was born and raised here in Suriname, so I'm also used to the rain. So when I was 18, I moved to Holland to study. I studied physics. I started at Keynote, and I studied physics. And then I fell in a black hole. Long story short, I discovered philosophy, or philosophy discovered me. So I graduated at the University of Twente in the Netherlands on a combination of studies, physics and philosophy. But you have to speak louder, the rain is competing with me also. So after graduation, I had the opportunity to work for some of the, let's say, large technology brands, technology companies of the world. So I've learned a lot. My first job was actually with Accenture. I'll put the slide up there. It was called, I don't know. It was called Anderson Consulting in those days. Last year I talked a little bit more about it. It was actually branded as the paperless office. I heard the guy from KPMG talked about it, and the vice president also, that we use less paper. This was in 1998. We already were working basically in a paperless office. After Anderson, I worked at Oracle. You must know Oracle. Oracle is a big brand, big software company, billion-dollar company. But they also started once as a small company in the 70s, early in the 70s. Mr. Larry Ellison and a few other guys, they started that company. And it's interesting to see that they are still around. After Oracle, I worked for Forrester Research, which is a Boston-based research company. And after that, I worked at Gartner. Forrester and Gartner actually are like market research companies. So they look at trends, they predict a little bit, where the market is heading, and other companies come to them for advice to see, where they should put their money for the next big thing. I've worked and lived internationally. I've lived in places like Dublin in Ireland, and 4 years ago I moved to Curacao, where I live with my dog and my wife. Nowadays I work for Digital Americas. Actually, I have to tell a story before that. I always wanted to start my own company. I guess many of you guys here in the room, maybe you're contemplating that. I'm not saying you should quit your current job, but it's about the mindset. So in 2005, I started my own consulting company, 100 Watt, which stands for 100% working apart together, drive. The idea is that nowadays with all the technology that we have, it is so easy to become either an entrepreneur within the enterprise or to start your own company. We will dive into that. So in that process, I met many other entrepreneurs. I spoke to many other companies. and I got in touch with Digital, which is a Dutch-based system integrator for digital television platforms. So that's not a startup anymore, but the digital TV business it's a booming business. Video is the next big thing, or one of the next big things. So 4 years ago, I joined them and I opened the office for them in Curacao, as I mentioned where I live now. Okay, that's a little bit of my background. So having had the opportunity to work for all these companies, I will I will touch basically also what it would mean for you. But before I do that, let me go back in time. I will show you a video about an experiment that was done in the early 90s, and it shows actually, it's a little bit blurry video, but I think it's still good to see. It gives you an idea about how people were thinking back in those days. So basically the foundational kind of thought that people were having about the future of humanity and the interaction that humanity would have with the computers, with the machines. So with that said, let me pull up the video. I'll do it a little bit old school because I don't trust everything from Microsoft PowerPoint.
Can it be a little bit louder?
Computer networks
Yes.
could create order in society without central control.
Can I have a little bit more volume on the speakers? Yeah. Yeah.
As an idea was emerging in California, it said that the new computer technologies could turn everyone into heroic individuals.
Yes.
It was a vision of a society where the old forms of political control would be unnecessary, because computer networks could create order in society without central control. This had never happened before, because at the heart of Western political thought had always been a fear that if you allowed individuals too much freedom, you would get anarchy. But ever since the 1970s, computer utopians in California believed that if human beings were linked by webs of computers, then together they could create their own kind of order. It was a cybernetic dream which said that the feedback of information between all the individuals connected as nodes in the network would work to create a self-stabilizing system. The world would be stable, yet everyone would be heroic Randian beings, completely free to follow their desires. Now, in the 1990s, the technologies had been built. But in 1991, a leading computer engineer from California gave a dramatic demonstration. He was called Lauren Carpenter. He invited hundreds of people to a large shed. On each seat was a small paddle, and in front of them was a giant screen.
We told them nothing for a while. We just left the things on the seats, and people would pick this up and look at it and say, what's that? And then somebody noticed that there's little red and green dots up there on the screen. And this is red and green, so maybe that has something to do with that. Could be that. Okay, there I am. And when that happened, the room erupted. Just totally spontaneous. We didn't say anything.
Carpenter then began an experiment. He projected the early computer game Pong. Each half of the audience jointly controlled the bat on their side of the screen. If an individual held up red on their paddle, a computer sensor picked it up, and the bat on the screen went down. If they held up green, it went up. But they had to operate it together.
When the game is being played, the ball's going back and forth. If it's down here and it's headed that way, some people are going to have to show red to keep it from going all the way to the top. If everybody just showed green, it would slam up to the top and the ball would miss. So something happened in that group of people where some decided to show green and some decided to show red to cause it to stop in the right place. We have no idea what did that.
what he had created was a model of a society where there was no hierarchy, where everyone made their own decisions without guidance. Yet because they were linked by the machines, out of it came a stability and an order.
So they're all acting as individuals because each one of them can decide what they're going to do. They have total freedom about what they decide to do. But there's an order. There's an order that emerges that gives them a kind of an amoeba-like effect where they surge and they play. It was kind of in the nature of an experiment. I wanted to see if no hierarchy existed at all, what would happen.
And what did happen?
They formed a kind of a subconscious consensus.
Out of these kinds of ideas came what was called the Californian ideology. It was an odd fusion of radical individualism and utopian theories about computer systems. And an international priesthood rose up to promote it. What united them was a vision that the world was now one interconnected system, that nation states were irrelevant, and politicians should not try and control the system. They should let it free to create a new kind of democracy.
All the mechanisms that we are creating are connecting everything to everything else. They let the individual do their thing.
The internet, as it spreads, is going to radically accelerate that process of network formation, the different kind of global governance.
Really the fundamental evolution of the global system in the post-Cold War era.
And people, as consumers, have moved into the 21st century. New citizens, networkers who will reshape the world.
You have citizens forming networks, global society, planetary consciousness.
Where they are absolutely liberating the individual.
The power has shifted to the citizens, and the government must be a facilitator. They should not, in the traditional sense, control and regulate.
Okay, thank you. How do I go back to the full screen?
All right. So again, I warned you. It was an older video, but maybe you heard some words. This guy was talking about consumers were doing their own thing, like a global planetary system. We have social media now, right? So the interesting thing is that when you talk about big data, the cloud, embedded system, that term was coined here this morning also. That means that through the interactions of humans, that's the morale of the story, the key takeaway of the video, is that there's going to happen something that, between the interaction of humans and computers, and we don't know how that really works. It's almost like fish in a school or birds in a flock. Anyway, let's go back to 2014. Vamos a Silicon Valley. I used a little bit Spanish. The Spanish were the first that also conquered that region. That's why we have a lot of Spanish names, San Francisco, for instance, San Jose. But that's coming from those days. So this year, like I said, I had the opportunity to work for a lot of, let's say, interesting technology companies. And this year I decided I want to go and see where it all started. So that's when I went to Silicon Valley. The journey started with a meeting. I was not on my own, I was with some colleagues and some of my clients. And we had a meeting with, let's say, the ambassador of Silicon Valley, Mr. Russell Hancock. This is a picture of me with him there. And the next slides, like this one, are his slides, so all credit goes to him. So let me start, and this is how he started also when we had the meeting. It says, one thing that Silicon Valley is not, it's not a place. I mean, you just saw the previous map. That's a region, basically, but it's not one specific place. It is neither a planned phenomenon. So there was no smart people sitting in one room and said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to start this innovation area where all the great things are going to happen. It didn't work that way. There is also not one overarching identity. So there's different cities, different places, There's not just one specific thing. So it's very hard to grasp what it really is. And last but not least, there is no silicon in the ground. So there is no gold, no silicon, so the name doesn't come from there. Does anybody know where the name Silicon Valley comes from? Any guesses? Any one of you've been there? Maybe I should ask that. Nice. Electronics. Okay, that's a good one. Actually, it's true. The ground material, the raw material to make these transistors, these chips, is coming from silicium. So nothing to do with Silicon Valley or silicon, like the plastic silicon. This is the ground material to make the chips. So that's what it's not. So what is it, or what does give it some characteristic? This is also part of the culture. It is 40 cities. This is a Google map. It's 40 cities, 4 counties. Counties are like districts. It's for us, it's a relatively big area. But if you compare the US sizes, where everything is big, go large, it is a small region relatively. There's only 2.5 million inhabitants, and half of them are basically working in the industry, or our workforce. What's an interesting statistic is the 37% of foreigners. So immigration is they have very good immigration law. So it also works as a magnet for people from all over the world. When I was there, I saw a lot of Chinese people, I saw a lot of Indian people, I saw people from anywhere. So it's a talent magnet. There is a university there. I will touch that a little bit later. So this high level of education. Almost more than 40% of them have a college degree, so that's bachelor or up. Not all of them. I talked about the mecca of the nerd. If you look at another statistic, 70% only has a background in science or engineering. There's also a very when you will go there, or if you've been there, you will probably recognize what I'm saying. There's also like another kind of culture, the hippie culture from the 60s, the 70s is also there. So people are also into art, literature, in cultural stuff. So anyway, the salaries are a little bit higher. Let's say an average guy that comes from the university starts working for the top companies will make maybe 140,000 US, just to give you an idea. So the average salary in Silicon Valley region, if you work for the good companies, is relatively high. Also, there's a lot of innovation coming from that region. So they also hold a lot of patents, companies over there. So what is it actually? What is Silicon Valley? I'm still trying to grasp what it is and what gives it the innovation, element of innovation. There's a couple of things that Russell shared with us. One of the key things, as he said, it is not, the type of companies there are not hierarchical. So, of course, there's always a boss, but or there's a management team, but the way it's being run, it's like a meritocracy. I don't know if I pronounce it correct, but you are scored on your merits, on your results. That's what you achieve, what you bring in the company. So not because you're younger or you're just 1 year in the office, you don't have a say. If you have brilliant ideas and you can express it, you will be judged by that. Very key factor, and this is also a cultural thing. So culture is again it's very hard to grasp, but and this is American culture, but especially in Silicon Valley, if you make a mistake, you start your company and it doesn't work out, it's no problem. Actually, it's like an asset. In the Netherlands, for instance, I don't know how it's here, but I guess it's similar like in the Netherlands. If you start your own company, you feel that you're like, nobody looks at you anymore. You also walk like this. In America, in Silicon Valley, it's like, wow, this guy already did it. So he has experience with that. So it's an asset, it's a plus. That's why you have serial entrepreneurs. And not all of the enterprises that they start are successful. And that's a key thing to remember. That's part of the dream, that's part of the culture. What is also key there is because with ideas alone, you are not there. I mean, if you want to scale up an idea, we'll talk about billion-dollar companies as we move along. You need funding, right? So there is also venture capitalists over there. So people that maybe were investors in the past or startups, and they got They exited, they got rich, and they became investors. But you also have the banks and so on. So all the infrastructure of capital is around there. I already mentioned how many nationalities are there. It's a mobile, fluid workforce. So people come and they go. It's not so rigid. It's not like people stay 30 years within one company. It's totally not like that. Another thing that's important, and it was mentioned during the opening presentation, is that you need to have certain rules, government rules in place that are easy for the entrepreneurs to start up your company. So minimize the red tape. You should be able to start up your enterprise within, let's say, a week or two. And there's another point. There's a whole infrastructure there. I also went to one of the law firms there because you need lawyers to make good contracts, especially when you deal with intellectual property. You also have a lot of accountancy firms. So basically, the whole infrastructure from a service point of view to set up your organization, your company, your startup are over there. I already mentioned the university. There's a very important a well-known university, I should say. That's the Stanford University. You guys heard of it? You can Google it. You can maybe watch some videos online nowadays. And Stanford was built in that region actually with the idea that it should be more practical. So of course, academics is interesting. I also like academic stuff. But to translate an idea into reality, you need to be practical. So Stanford was standing for that, basically, where you bring these bright people together, but you also give them skills so they can start their own company. What I also mentioned before, Silicon Valley is in the California region. So you have these songs about California. You can find them on YouTube. It's a different kind of lifestyle. I mean, I'm overdressed now for Californian purposes. You can go with your shorts, your slippers, your or flip-flops, they say nowadays, the t-shirts, whatever. It's a surf culture, it's a beach culture, so you have it all there in that neighborhood. So the quality of life is good. And last point that Russell mentioned was the cluster effect. That means that within, let's say you are here, the next block, there are so many other small startups. There's a lot of people around with a lot of ideas. And you will meet almost on a daily basis. If you go to the Starbucks over there, everybody in the Starbucks or other coffee places are talking about their next, big thing, the project that they are working on. If you go to barbecues, to people's houses, they will talk about, what company they are going to start tomorrow. And of course, all these companies have secret policies, NDAs, etc. But part of the culture is that still people share the ideas because people have energy. They want to share the ideas. They want to test it also on their peers. Okay, to give you a little bit more of a feel for it, I don't want to call it a photo documentary. I'm in the video business, I should show a video, but I thought, let me give you some pictures of an idea, so you can get a sense of what I experienced, what I saw over there. So it starts with I put the sign of Palo Alto. Silicon Valley, if you do some research on it online, you will hear about this Palo Alto. What is Palo Alto? Palo Alto is actually a tree. So the city so somebody planted a tree, and the tree basically saw the city growing as people came in. So it's a Spanish word, but it's a specific type of tree. In the logo of the Stanford University, you can see the tree. And I think in the early days, Apple also did something with the tree. I see you nodding, so you know what I'm talking about. What's your name, by the way? Mark. Thank you, Mark. So this is El Camino Real, the street. Again, a Spanish name. It's like a main street. On the left-hand side, you have the Stanford University, and if you walk a little bit further the street, you arrive downtown in the city. I talked about the Stanford University also. It's not a university as we traditionally know it. And of course, there are online universities. That's completely a different story. But the Stanford University, it's actually like a big. How do you say it? It's like a small village maybe within Palo Alto, and they have public transportation. So if you're a student, you never have to pay for the bus. You can just hop on and hop off. So it brings you basically to all your college classes. This is one picture of the university. I could have taken more. You can Google them. The tower in the middle is like a landmark sign, just like the Palo Alto. The tree next to it is not a Palo Alto. And When you are there, you can see some people. It was a little bit of a rainy day when I went. You see people there and they take pictures. Nowadays, it's normal that people take pictures, but it's like a hotbed, like I said again, for innovation. So it's very interesting to walk there. Again, you see so many students from different places, and you probably wish, at least I wish that I had the chance to be in a university like that. But okay, I cannot go back in time. This is a picture of a table of books. So this is within the Stanford University, and it's a picture of the type of books that I took the picture because I wanted to share with you, what type of books people are reading here. You can see it's a little bit very scientific, but you'll also see a book about the violinist. So it's a combination of extreme thinking, free thinking, combined with art. So engineering, this book of Carl Sagan, Cosmos, the series is being re-released again. So it's all these crazy ideas, maybe genius ideas, combined with an open mind together. This is a picture of a Tesla. I don't know if you heard about the car. It's a 100% electrical car. Again, it's a rainy day, so I just took a quick picture and jumped in the bus. The Tesla is called after Nikola Tesla, a famous inventor, next to Edison, or he used to work for Edison. They got a fight. Anyway, that's another story. But this guy created the Tesla. It's a 100% electrical car, as I mentioned before. So it's going to be difficult to have it straight away here in Suriname because you need the rest of the infrastructure. This car, you can update the car wirelessly. So it has an operating system. I didn't show that picture, but there's an iPad, basically type of dashboard within the car. It's crazy. To show you a little bit more about no, I should say it differently. We went to one of the largest startups. It's not a startup anymore, but to get a feeling for how it is to be there inside. Normally, of course, you cannot just get in, so you need to make arrangements to get in. This is a picture. I'm speaking a little bit fast because apparently time goes faster than I thought. This is a picture of the canteen. On the left-hand side, you don't see that. It's like it's free food, so you have everything that you can take. So for breakfast, lunch, even in the evenings, there is food available. And if you look at, this is also to give you an idea about the culture. Look at how people are dressed, very casual. Look at the seats, like in school, right? But this is within Google. It's $1 billion bus company. So it started out of Stanford also. This guy has a T-shirt, "Hacking for Humanity." So this is also part of the culture. People want to make the world a better place, and they believe that technology plays an important role to do that. So this guy is hacking for humanity. This is a picture of a whiteboard. So it's not so formal. This was within a meeting room. We had a session about Android, where it's heading. So I took some pictures of the whiteboard just to give you an idea. Again, for the feeling. The Google bikes, maybe you heard of it. They are colored in the colors of. They're painted in the colors of Google. Small bikes. If we go back to this bike, you can see that there is no lock on the bike. So no one owns the bike. It's part of the share economy trend, big trend nowadays. One of the themes of this ICT Summit is connect. Sharing is another way of connecting. So people are using these bikes to hop or to go from one building to the other building on their campus. Even more bikes. This is outside the campus. This is close to downtown Palo Alto. But this is like a company basically that started a sharing bike project. So you become a member of a club basically, and you can share bikes. So and there are different places where you take this bike and you park it somewhere else. The same concept they have with cars. You have Airbnb. You heard about this before, probably, where you can share rooms all over the world. But it's a part of the trend, and technology is making all this happen. This is a picture within the building. It's a big, well, it's not as big as the real spaceship one, but this is also to show that sky is the limit. That's why I put this picture here. People dream big. There was a prize, the X Prize released in 2004. The prize was 10 million for the team that would come up with a revolutionary idea, basically to get a spaceship, a manned spaceship in outer space. There's a lot of projects going on right now around that theme. But it shows again, the culture is dream big. This is, if you recognize it, is YouTube. I also went to YouTube. YouTube is acquired by Google, so they're also not part of the Google brand, but still they have kept their own identity. It's also not on the campus of Google, it's a different building. And, but still, like a startup, they are becoming a little bit corporate, but you know, you can still feel the energy in the building. So this is this gives you an idea a little bit about that one. This was, I mean, we were allowed to walk there, take pictures and so on. I mean, do you have this in your office? You know, they would think, what are you coming here to work or play, right? There they combine everything together. Nothing is crazy. This is another, I find that crazy picture. I don't know why they have all these things, but you know, I had 3 cameras with me, I shot all of them for. I don't know what the English word for glijbaan is, but this is within the office of YouTube. I didn't see anyone going on it. But I guess, again, what I want to transmit here is what I experienced there also. You know, sharing is important, dreaming big is important, not being afraid to do crazy things, nothing, you know, there's no judgment there. Everything is possible. Back on the street, what I talked about, the hippie culture, I think this guy, you know, he put all the stickers, or I don't know if it's from a guy or a woman, but you know, wherever you've been. The beach is close by, Santa Cruz Beach is close by, so if you like surfing, whatever, this was also a rainy day. But there are good days there, a lot of good days. You know, it's all part of the culture. Also the big city, this is a picture of San Francisco. So Palo Alto, where the university is, a relatively small village type of place, no a lot of skyscrapers. But you know, the big cities is around you. So it's, and San Francisco is also, if you've been there, it's many things to do, many social events, cultural events, everything you can do. Everything is in the vicinity. Okay, so I showed you some pictures, but what is then the algorithm, as I would call it, to speak in computer terms? What is the essence? I mean, I talked a bit about it, but what if you would want to start your own company? What is the rhythm you should follow? This is a quote of, before I go to it, this is a quote from Mr. Horowitz. He's an important venture capitalist. Of course, he talks about that you have to have genius, but actually I highlighted courage. Because for every entrepreneur, whether it's in the technology space or in something else, you have to have courage. It takes courage to start a company. Anyway, what is the algorithm? I use the hashtag. So number 1, we'll take one big idea. Don't focus on everything. Focus on one big idea. What is a big idea? A big idea is a derivative of the major trends, disruptive technologies that come. Choose your spot. Do what you like and take one big idea. Start with a small group of friends. That's how it started. This is traditionally how it started. And friends, I'm not talking about necessarily friends on Facebook, but friends can be also people that you connect very well with. So it's not a traditional meeting of friends. Start with a small group of friends that have complementary skills. And then build a product based on the big idea, the one big idea. And product, by the way, can also be a service that is scalable for huge amount of users. Look at Facebook. They started small. They started in a dorm on the campus, but now it's being used worldwide. So make sure that you use also technology that's scalable. And then the idea is that you go to Silicon Valley. You don't necessarily have to go there, but I think it's cool when you can go there and pitch your idea to venture capitalists. So basically people that have been in your position before somehow, they know how it works. They can also give you, if your idea is great, they can give you the funding to go to the next step, to grow internationally. And to grow internationally, you always have to look for super talents. This is also one of the policies of Google. When they are not sure about hiring you, because of whatever reason, they won't hire you. Because they say they want only A-level players. When you start your own company, you think the same way. You only work with people that you really feel that they are the best, because that will help you to grow internationally and further. The idea is that you want to, not necessarily that you have to become rich. Of course, every entrepreneur dreams about that, but that will come. So, but to get investors and so on board, you have to have a business model that shows a revenue potential of bigger than $1 billion. That's the idea. That's important. And to do that, you need to have something what we call the hockey stick, like the law of more. it was mentioned also before. This is what investors will look into. So how quickly, how exponentially can you grow the business? Because this means for them that their investment will, will have high returns. And this is going IPO. IPO means you're going to the stock market, you're going public with your company. This is a big moment. If you achieve this, Facebook did this, Google did this. Not all startups reach this stage, but if you can reach this, then it's like you're in a new place. Because then basically it means for the founders, they can, for the venture capitalists for sure, they will exit, so they will step out of your company, because new shareholders will come into the company. And for founders it means billionaire status, right? And now we have changed the world. So this would be, in 9 steps, there is one more, but in 9 steps, basically, the algorithm of starting your own company. So this is the rational part. Of course, there's the cultural part also, that's the mindset, the open spirit, the courage part, the sharing with others, all that is in place. But now you have changed the world. And people that have done this before, like Bill Gates, now he is the founder of Microsoft. He's now a philanthrope. He is now, right? So he's doing good things for the world. So there's another way of changing the world. Some of them become investors, like I mentioned before, and invest in new startups. Okay, last one. As Steve Jobs said, it's also almost lunch. So he said, stay hungry, stay foolish. And I think that's he said that in a speech in 2004, I believe, on top of my head, in Stanford. And that's what, I think this is what it is about. And you have to, like I said, foolish means like there is no foolishness. You are not afraid. And stay hungry means don't be satisfied with the status quo right now, right? That's it, thank you. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take them. If you want to know more how I can maybe help you a little bit on your ideas, you can, I have a Surinamese number that I take with me abroad, so we can WhatsApp, or you can send me an email. Thank you again. I'll be here today and tomorrow, so if there's no question now, I would say, there's a question.
Thanks for the nice presentation, by the way. This step plan, how would you translate that to the situation in Suriname? Because we don't do IPOs, we don't hop on a plane to go to Silicon Valley, we don't even have an address in the area of Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
And most, as I feel it, most companies in our region get bought out if they have something nice at maybe 20 million or 10 million and never reach the level of 5 or 6.
Yeah. Very good question. I mean, I mentioned the $1 billion, right, as the ultimate dream. But in the end, $1 billion is just a number, right? So it's so you can, I think you can, and by the way, I think when you're a billionaire, I read the interviews about Larry Ellison, CEO of Oracle. So when you are a billionaire, something changes in your brain. So you can, but again, it's, to me at least, it's a scaling thing. You can, it's like on your touchscreen, you can make it smaller or bigger. But the essence is still within your own environment. Of course, you maybe won't reach the $1 billion company, but there are some key elements like the courage thing. The courage is important. The open-mindedness is important. The not being afraid to share. Of course, I know in Suriname everybody's trying to copy other, so you have to be aware of that. But when you have your inner circle, you shouldn't be afraid to share your idea. But I mean, I'm happy to talk about it. And I understand not just with these 9 or 10 steps, it's going to be just that as a recipe. Because there are so many startup companies, and not all of them make it. Let's put that way. But let's put it this way, it is so easy nowadays with the mobile technologies that you have to start your own company. And what is going to be key is that maybe you sign a partnership with already brands out there, so you're not on your own. That could be another way of overcoming that. Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Anil. I guess you made us all hungry.
Yes.
Not only for the food that is outside in the lunchroom, but also for making a trip to Silicon Valley. You will be our guide?
Yes.
Okay, great. We'll have a lunch break. We'll be back here at 1:15 for the next presentation about e-education. Have a very good meal, and I'll see you in an hour.